Real people, real opinions.
Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.
Ireland's classic hits.
Horses do not belong in housing estates. Why are the local councils not doing anything about it? Those are the questions posed by a listener who contacted us last night. And his name is Gavin, and I'm going to read out his message to you now and let me know what you think. Gavin says, "Hi, Classic Hits. I'd love you to address this issue. I live in a housing estate in Limerick. It's a well-built-up area, and over the last year, the horse situation has gone terrible. Stray horses everywhere, owned by local young fellas. They are tied up in fields, often neglected, often left without water for hours. We have to bring them out water ourselves, as they don't care about the welfare of the horses. There are about 15 now in the estate, and we rang the local authorities several times and the horses still haven't been rounded up. I think it's disgusting that the animal neglect has been allowed. The 6-year-old boy next door to me," this is shocking, well, you hear this, "the 6-year-old boy next door to me was almost kicked by one while out playing in the field." Now that could cause death. Even an adult getting kicked by a horse, that would kill you, easily kill you. Can't imagine what it could do to a 6-year-old. There needs to be a mass roundup of all these horses. Take them off anyone who keeps it in a field or an estate with no stables. Sell them on or destroy them. Now, I don't agree with that. Or put them out of their misery because they are being treated like crap. Please highlight this from Gavin in Limerick. And I would like to hear from you. 087 188 0008. 087 188 0008. How bad is the horse situation where you live, whether it's Galway, Limerick, Cork, Dublin, wherever it is?
Ireland's Classic Hits Radio.
Good evening if you're just joining us. It is Wednesday's edition of the show. It's Jeremy Dixon in for Niall live until 11 o'clock tonight with Nighttime Talk on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. And the messages are coming in already. 087 188 0008. Just before the break I read out a email from Gavin. I won't read it out again, but just to summarise what he's saying, he wants horses rounded up. If there's a horse in an estate tied to a railings or whatever, not being fed, not being watered, owned by young fellas, the horse should be rounded up and either taken into a stable somewhere, given to someone who actually cares about it, or but he said destroyed, which I don't agree with as well, unless they are like in an awful lot of pain. I see this every day of the week when I'm driving to certain places. I really do, and it boils my blood, especially during the summer. Now I know we haven't had great summer days, but there have been lovely warm days where I've seen horses tied up near the back road of the airport, and I can't even remember what the name of the road that it's on, but there's horses always there, and the poor things look miserable. They haven't been, well, I don't know if they've been fed, but there's no water there. They're literally just tied in the middle of a field, and I think that's wrong. Having a horse is a privilege, in my belief. It's an expensive hobby, and it's something that shouldn't be taken lightly. And if you can't afford, it's a very expensive hobby as well, by the way. And if you cannot afford stables for a horse, if you can't afford the proper facilities for a horse, you shouldn't bloody have one. That's the bottom line. So that's my tuppence worth on it. I'd love to hear from you. 087 188 0008. How bad is the horse situation in your area? Now, our first caller is a woman who I've spoken to many times over the years, and her and her team do absolutely great work when it comes to horses. My Lovely Horse Rescue is the name of the charity. You will know them, you'll have heard of them. They have rescued so many horses from terrible, terrible situations. Martina joins me on the line. Martina, you're very welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm good, thank you.
I know this is something that boils your blood as well, and you guys have been great at highlighting it over the years. Horses just left in housing estates with no care.
Yeah. As you said, it is a very expensive hobby for some, and it is a privilege to own such an amazing animal. And also, it's a sad case that I don't want to see them destroyed neither. But it is very sad to see a horse, a little pony, first of all, being ridden up and down till it's exhausted or till it falls over, in an estate as just like a quad bike, a bit of fun, and just throw it there. And I've seen that through the years. That's the harsh part of it, harsh reality, and I've seen it a lot. Then the other part is tied up for days on end. Kids buy a horse for little or nothing, especially nowadays. And they're used for the summer months, then comes to the winter, and the winter they're left, they're no longer wanted. They might go lame. And again, it is an expensive animal, if something goes wrong. So obviously vets are out of the question. If it colics from eating something bad, or it can eat ragwort, which is a poisonous, if it's starving, a poisonous plant. Loads do. We take loads in that also have eaten that have nearly died or do die or have done a lot of damage to their liver. There's all sorts of stuff. And these poor things, as you say, are roaming around fingless. Only a couple of days ago, about 7 horses roaming around fingless looking for food. Like, that's ridiculous. We've become, I think Ireland has become a very cruel, sad place for animals, dogs as well. We're becoming a country where we just don't care.
Why isn't it taken seriously? Like, you heard, I don't know if you heard Gavin's his email, and he's contacted the local authorities. I assume it's the local council in Limerick. He's contacted them several times to tell them that there's 15 horses in the estate. 15 horses in the estate, and there's nothing. They still haven't come out. They still haven't come out to do anything. The 6-year-old kid nearly got kicked by one of the horses. Why are, first of all, do the Gardaí have the authority to round up these horses and take them away?
The Gardaí do have the authority, but the problem is Gardaí needs the councils to back them up as well. There's a serious problem with, again, Ireland, and the fact of, oh no, that's your job, oh no, that's your job, oh actually that's your job. It's everybody's job. Everybody needs to work together to sort this problem, and it's a huge problem. It's been ongoing. It seems to have gotten worse. I know estates in Dublin as well that have about 15, 16 to 20 horses roaming around the place, and nobody does anything.
And where are these estates, Martina? Or can you?
I know there's places in Finglas, there's places in Ballyfermot, there's Coolock, loads of places.
And who owns the horse? Obviously not the names of the people. What type of people own these horses that think it's acceptable to leave them in housing estates?
A lot of them. Look, and I'm not saying, that every single one of them are cruel. I'm definitely not going to say that, because that's not true. We can't tar everybody with the same brush. But housing estate isn't a place for a horse. Your back garden isn't a place to build your stable and put a horse. I don't think so, and an awful lot of people don't think so. But I know lads that are doing that. Now, I know good lads around Dublin City or back, the suburbs that have horses, and they actually do really try their very best to care for them. But then there's others that they just don't care. It's just something to ride around the place until they can just throw it there. They don't give it the right care. They don't understand that grass cuttings can kill them. They don't understand how bad worms can kill a horse really, really easily. Loads of those things. There's no kind of education around it, really. It's just, listen, Johnny, here's a horse for a tenner, or here's a yearling that it's a boy, we don't want it. It doesn't mean much to us. It's not worth anything. Take it. And they do take it. Kids take them. And it's rotten, the fact that happens. They are dangerous animals if they kick. Like, they can really hurt you. I've been kicked a few times, and it's not pleasant. So, a little kid being kicked in the head, that could kill them.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
All of these things, or a kid even riding a horse bareback down the road, as much as they think this is great fun, one fall could kill them forever. I just can't even believe that more haven't been.
I know. I heard a story, well, it was first hand on the previous radio station I worked for, and I was doing the show about this, and a fella came on to say that 24 hours previous his partner had been driving up near Santry and was parked at the lights, and a horse came out of the field and jumped through the windscreen. The horse literally went through the windscreen on top of her, and she ended up in hospital for 6 months over it, and he was distraught over that. And it was literally just a horse that was plonked in the field. So his point, Gavin's point is, it's time to round up the horses in housing estates and take them into care. Would you support that?
I mean, look, we've always said it's time to stop this. It's time to whatever. But, I mean, who's going to do this? Who's going to say, okay, it is time? It's up to councils. But I know that an awful lot of estates that horses are walking around and roaming around, they're also dangerous places for the guards to go into and just start the guards aren't trained to take a load of horses. So therefore, the contractors are contracted, the pound is basically contracted by the local authorities, like the councils. And they have to go in But like even they go in and it's quite dangerous. You know, they go in under the council, but sure, even the police will go with them. I know areas that the police and Pound have gone in. Pound guys have been stabbed. Police have been nearly stabbed.
Jesus, yeah. So is it really worth the hassle? And anytime I put this up on because I feel very strongly about this, and anytime I put it up on social media saying these horses have been rounded up, these young fellas come out of the woodwork and they always say the same thing. These horses are better looked after than you are. We love our horses. Our horses, we wouldn't do any harm to them. And the evidence is just not there to support it because they are left. They're just left in fields with no food, no water, no care. And so how can they say that they care for these horses? I just don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, and there are some of them, and I'm not going to say, as I said just a few minutes ago, like, you know, you can't say they all don't. There is some of them, and I know loads. I have loads on my phone that I can ring and go, look, if there's a horse in Finglas there, can you go and have a look? They've got a horse themselves. You know, and look, they do their very best, and they do love them, and it's unfair that they can't actually afford, you know, stables or a nice livery or something. But then there's the guys that just don't care. And they're the ones that make it really, really bad for anybody else, and they're the ones that are tying them up, not thinking that they need water.
I know, yeah, clueless.
A lot of water, yeah, and they're miserable. As you said, you see them miserable, yeah. They're miserable, and it breaks my heart to see a mother and foal walking down the streets of wherever, Poolock or whatever, you know, Darndale or something, or up the horses that come out of Dunsink that walk into Finglas, because there is nothing left for them to eat. So they're basically going around bins and people's gardens. That breaks their heart. Like, we're
it breaks my heart as well. Martina Kenny, thanks very much for joining us from My Lovely Horse Rescue, and keep up the good work, you and the team. You do great. You do great work. Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks very much, Martina. That's Martina from My Lovely Horse Rescue. You can follow them on Facebook and see the great work that they do. They've rescued so many horses from absolutely disgusting situations. And I want to hear from you. What do you think we can do to solve this problem? Or maybe you don't believe this is a problem. Let me go to Lucy. Lucy, you're on Ireland's Classic Hits Radio. How are you?
I'm good. How are you keeping?
Not bad at all. Now, you've heard the story from Gavin's housing estate in Limerick, overrun with horses. Martina says it's a huge, huge problem. The authorities are afraid to go into some of these estates and take the horses away because they could get stabbed. What should happen here?
Well, the part of Dublin that I would have grown up in myself now, like I was quite prone to like that, seeing horses, other animals, like quite like horses around. I mean, I'm not a huge animal person or horse person or anything like that myself, but I suppose I know no different from it. From what I've seen growing up, I mean, they're looked after, like the children are looked after, you know, like the owners look after them like they are their own.
But that's not what the evidence that people have say. That's not the case. That these horses are being neglected, and you know, a housing estate is not a place for a horse. I've seen horses in front gardens, for God's sake, in Ballyfermot. Like, how is that the right place to put a horse?
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that it's the right place in any means, but I mean, just from my upbringing myself, I've seen it. It's been quite normalised to me. And from my area, I've seen them been treated very, very well. I've not seen them been left without water, without food, anything like that. I've never seen any type of neglect towards them.
But would you agree that a housing estate is not the best place for them? Well, it's not. It's not.
Oh no, by any means, it's not the right place for them at all. But I mean, each to their own. If people own a horse, then I mean, the prices for stables nowadays, I'm sure, are just astronomical.
Oh no, they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So some people might not have a choice. Some people might have lost out on money that they would have had to keep a horse within a stable. And I mean, now they might not have any choice.
But I'd love a Range Rover car, but the simple fact is I can't afford one, so I don't have one. And it's the same for horses. Keeping horses is a very expensive hobby. It's really, really expensive. And my answer would be, if you can't afford a horse, to keep it in stables, to keep it in livery, if you can't afford any of that, then you shouldn't have one.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah. A lot of people, though, like, they mightn't be able to afford to keep up with owning a dog, but a lot of people mightn't be able to part with owning a dog.
I know, but
Now, I know dogs can fit inside houses like horses mightn't be able to fit inside a house. But, you know, like I said, each their own. I've grown up with it being a very normal thing in my life. Now, my family didn't own a horse or anything like that, but I've seen it around the area I would have grown up in, and I've just been immune to it, really.
Were they out in the fields and where you grew up, like just standing on the fields where kids were playing and all that?
Yeah, they would have been around, I suppose, the greens and housing estates, or if there was a field alongside a housing estate, kind of areas like that, yeah.
Okay, do me a favour, stay there for a second, please, Lucy. 087 188 0008 is our WhatsApp number. Keep those messages coming in. 087 188 0008. Lucy says, as you heard there, where she grew up, it was quite normal. She believes that the horses are well looked after. Let me go to Elaine. Elaine, you don't believe that they belong in housing estates. Why?
I just don't, because, I mean, it's kind of logical thinking.
Sorry, can you speak into the phone? Hello?
Sorry, I'm a bit away from my speaker there. I just feel, I suppose, it's a bit of logical thinking. Like, I know, like, people do maintain horses on, like, estates and stuff like that and on greens, but, like, I mean, it's not a place for them. I mean, you've small kids, they need to be maintained, they need to be shoed, like, I mean, and not everyone is out, you know, full-time looking after their kids. These animals, they can be wild unless very well trained. Like, you know, I'm a big animal lover, and my daughter does a lot of horse riding. They are high maintenance, and that's one of the reasons we could never buy. I could buy one, but like to maintain them is a different story. Like, and you need ground for them. You need your own private kind of area for them, and grazing and stuff like that. And I don't think that housing estates and stuff are appropriate for them unless they can provide kind of maybe adequate shelter and security, I suppose, for them. Like,
but in most cases they can't, because they're just left on fields. And let me just go back to Lucy. Do you not get the point that Elaine is making, Lucy, that these people do not have adequate accommodation for these horses?
Yeah, no, of course. But like I said, if people don't have any choice, like if they did keep a horse, let's say, in a stables, and then it comes to the stage that they can't afford to keep it and they don't want to part with them, they've no choice. Like, the love that they have for their animal, like, that's just there, and they can't part with them.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you're keeping a horse, I think on an estate, like, I suppose, like, I grew up in places where horses have been kept and they don't have adequate shelter, they don't have adequate food. I've seen a lot of animal abuse down through the years as well, and it's like, you know, some people can do it and some people can't, and it's like, do we tar them all in with the one brush, you know? It's just, I think it all boils down to maintaining them and looking after them and making sure they're secure and they're not.
But Lucy would claim, and she has experience of it, isn't that correct, Lucy, that the horses are well looked after? You have never, in all your years growing up where there's been horses just kept in housing estates, you've never seen one being badly treated, have you, Lucy?
No, I've never seen any form of neglect towards any horse that I would have grown up with in my area.
You're lucky you haven't seen kind of animal abuse and torturing to animals that go on, because, I mean, like, at night time when these horses are left outside in an estate, like, if that horse broke loose and decided to run down the road at the dark of night and a car comes into contact with that horse, like, I mean, who's responsible for it? Like, you know, they loved their horse, so they couldn't part with it, so it got knocked down on the road. So, like, who's responsible? If they can't maintain the horses, how are they going to pay for other people's fees if any danger or accident happens with these horses? And I understand that there is people that have horses and they're not kept, I suppose, within proper means and stuff like that, and they are taken care of. But, like, a lot of them, I've seen it on building sites. I've lived in estates and parts of neighbourhoods where horses are kept on lawns and stuff like that, and it's like, if I was in love with a pet monkey and I had a pet monkey at home and I couldn't maintain it, does that mean that I just leave them freely then outside, or do I leave, you know, an animal that could cause serious harm? I've seen videos online locally in my area where sulky horse racing has taken place, and I, like, not drifting away from the point or anything, but there was actually one race in particular. It was going down a road, and there was a horse. It was knocked down by a car while attached to a sulky with a fella on the back of it. Like,
oh my God!
So, you know, and they're all online for people to see, like, and it's a big thing, and I understand that it's part of people's culture as well at the same time. But like, if you can maintain them and keep them in have adequate housing for them, that's fine. But I just don't think in the society that we're in at the moment, where I'm going to say it out, teens and people and children are running wild, for them to come in and take advantage of someone's property, and we'll say 12 o'clock at night while the horse is tied up.
And has that happened where you live?
It has happened where I live before, yeah, it has. They've came in and they've taken off with horses, like, and the horses in are found, you know, with they're damaged, like their legs are damaged, they're no more good.
Jeez,
so
that's horrible.
Then when horses' legs are damaged, they're no more good. They don't heal, so they end up then being euthanized, like, and it's, you know, it was on their lawn in an estate, but it was taken advantage of. They're open to the public, and these are animals, like, these are high maintenance animals, and
of course they are.
Maintained.
Classic Hits Radio.
It is Ireland's Classic Hits Radio, live for a Wednesday night with Jeremy Dixon in for nighttime talk. We're having an interesting conversation all about horses and whether or not they should be kept in estates. This is Martin.
A very good evening, Jeremy.
Good evening.
Martin.
Hey, Martin.
I was born and reared in Finglas. Very long time ago, but even then there were horses. Now, I have to be honest, I wouldn't know one end of a horse from another. I've never been on a horse. I wouldn't trust any form of transport that doesn't have brakes and a gearbox. But on a serious note, I'm always curious as to where are all the animal rights activists and the vegan mob when it comes to this subject. They'll condemn me for eating free-range chicken.
They're too busy eating avocados,
They
Martin.
seem to raise their head above the parapet when it comes to horses being allowed to stray all over the place, being a danger to traffic, to pedestrians, to children playing in fields, the whole lot. And then there's the welfare issue with the horses themselves. Great show as always.
Thanks, Martin. No, the vegans are busy eating avocados, and they're also busy like going into restaurants. Have you seen some of those videos of them run into restaurants where people are eating steaks and screaming at them, stop eating steak? But they wouldn't dare go into these housing estates and actually try and sort out the horse problem. Absolutely. They pick easy targets, is what they do, Martin. Let me go to Angelina, because you've been on hold for ages. How are you, Angelina?
Hey, Jeremy, how are you keeping? I'm good, thanks.
I'm grand, thanks. Now, what do you want to say about the horses?
I think it's kind of really unfair what people are saying about the horses, to be honest, because I think that kind of comes down to a class issue. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's trying to say people who can't afford a huge stable can't love animals. Do you know what I mean?
But okay, there's generally the weird thing about horses is, and keeping horses is, the two kinds of people that either keep horses are usually very, very upper class people or working class people. And it's a really weird thing. Like, it's associated with really, really posh people, and then it's associated with normal working class people as well. But you don't see horses being kept in gardens in Foxrock, Angelina, in Dublin, or...
Well, it's funny enough you say that. I'm actually from Jobestown, but my mum made me speak proper.
But there's nothing wrong with Jobestown now. And in fact, the last time I spoke about this issue, it was actually on the podcast, on our podcast, and
Sorry, never mind.
Yeah, and it was because a photograph had gone viral on Twitter, and it showed a woman in Jobestown, a young one, about 16 years of age, literally legging it up and down the path of Jobestown on a horse, on this huge big horse, and it was absolute mayhem over it. And is there still a horse issue out in Jobestown?
Well, there's two horses on my estate. Do you know what I mean? So, and like, they've always been treated well. Do you know what I mean? So I don't see the issue in it. And I think, like, it doesn't really matter where they're kept as long as they're treated well, they're fed, exercised, you know, groomed, and like their hooves are kept fair. But like, you see, like, when you watch that DSPCA, ISPCA thing on TV, do you know that program?
Yes.
You see, like, a lot of the horses on that do be in fields, and their hooves are overgrown, they're neglected, you can see their ribs. So do you know what I mean? Where, like, I've never seen that in an estate, though.
But these horses in Jobestown that are in your estate, are they being kept on the green, like the green where the kids play and all that?
Well, see, when I was younger, yeah, but like, a lot of us have grown up now.
But there are still horses in Jobestown because, as I said, last year that girl was riding up and down on the horse. She thought honestly, you should have seen this video. She thought she was in the Grand National. She's running past. No, honestly, she's running past the local centre, like, giddy up there. It was mad to see. And the thing about it is, well, and you're right about the class issue thing. If you were trying to sell your house in an estate and someone came in to try and buy a house, it doesn't paint a very good picture.
It shows animal lovers.
It doesn't. We just stop now. Would you buy a house now if you went into the estate and there was about 15 horses? You would bother you. Come on.
No, because I grew up with it. Do you know what I mean?
No, but I know when I send, I'm not from a posh estate, it's a normal estate, but I know when I send my son out to play this evening in the estate on the green, I know he's not going to get trampled on by a horse because there are none in the area.
Yeah, but like we've never bothered the horses as kids. Do you know what I mean? Like most kids have common sense.
But it's still, a housing estate is surely not a place for a horse.
Yeah, but like it's not as if the horse is going to run after you like a bull. Like it's completely different. Like I think dogs, like kids are like the same around dogs. Like kids don't know the difference between hugging a dog and a human, and like we have dogs in our houses. So what's the difference of having a dog in a house and a horse on a green?
Okay, because a dog doesn't need a stable. A dog doesn't need.
But a horse does be in a horse does be in a house. A horse does be on the green.
I hope there's no horses living in houses in Jobstown now. Jesus Christ.
But we actually had a horse come into our house one day before, believe it or not. But
no, I'll stall everything for a second. I want to hear that story. How did the horse end up in your living room?
This was a long time ago. I was only about 3 or 4, but it was up in my nanny's house in Ballyfermot, and there's a horse on the green, and my dad brought it through the house in the back garden.
Now, was the horse very small, or do you have a very big front door? Like, how did the horse?
It was a big horse, but like it's a normal, what do you call them? The houses that are attached together.
Yeah, semi-detached, or
yeah.
And the horse Jesus Christ! Yeah. And did the horse do a shit on the carpet or anything like that?
No. My nanny bait him around the place with a brush.
Oh my God, that's like something you'd see in the Snapper. I know we're laughing about it, but the poor bloody horse, like
the poor nanny.
The poor nanny. Next, she'd be saying the horses are going in for a pint of beer in the local pubs and stuff like that. Stay there for a second, there, please, Angelina, because Alan. You're listening to Angelina there. She's saying where she grew up in Jobstown, horses in the estates, they were all well looked after. What's the issue then here?
I don't know if she grew up in Jobstown, but how posh is that? What do you call 2 houses stuck together?
Say that again?
What do you call 2 houses stuck together? That's a very posh thing to say.
It is a very posh thing to say. Yeah.
What do you call those?
Semi-detached. I think that's what it is.
Stuck together. Horses shouldn't be in a housing estate on a green. It's not the right place for them. It's not fair on them. And if a horse kicks you, it can kill you. So if a child goes up to that horse, these horses are just left tied to a railing. You're looking for trouble. And I say a housing estate is not the place for them.
Now, you've heard it from Angelina, who's actually grown up in the estates where they are. She says that and you can vouch for that. Those horses were well looked after, Angelina.
Yeah, but also like a green is also bigger than a stable. Do you know what I mean? And some horses be left in stables for days, and not days, but like they be let out because people are working as well who own horses. Do you know what I mean? So it's not just they're out grazing all day. If people can't afford a field, they can afford a stable. But then like if they're left out on the green, they can graze all day as much as they like. And do you know what I mean? And as I said about like having a dog in a house, like a dog can trample a child as well. A dog can bite a child. A dog can attack a child. And like people have their dogs in their beds. So I wouldn't have a horse in my bed.
You wouldn't put the horse to bed, or I don't know, with the 2 houses stuck together, you might have a horse in your bed if it's a big bed. Look, I'm not saying they're not well looked after. That's not the point of making it. The point of making it is they should not be in the green in a housing estate. Because if a horse takes off, because they can kill instantly. They can run over a child. They can run over a child quite quickly.
But so can a dog. Like, look at a 2-year-old, and then, like, a Great Dane or, like, a German Shepherd or something like that. Rottweiler.
It predominantly happens in people's houses, right? But they're not, when you let your child to the green, you want your child to be safe in the green, not to have a big, what's a horse weigh, a ton? I don't know. Big machines, like, that can kill quite instantly and trample over things. Or you could have a child that instantly walks up to a horse, the pet a horse, and the horse kicks them.
Yeah, well, then, you should be watching your children on the estate anyway.
Real people, real opinions.
Real Talk Radio. The multi-award winning Niall Boylan Show.